Is diabetes curable? Type 2 diabetes most certainly can be reversed. I did it in 6 weeks. I started out with the low-carb high-fat diet, LCHF. This brought my BG levels to normal for non-diabetic people. Since then I have adjusted the diet to a low-carb moderate-fat diet. I eat less than 75 grams of carbs a day. No sugars or sweeteners of any kind except stevia. No potatoes or other starches. I make my own barbecue sauces and salsas. I eat lots of veggies. No sweet fruits or juices. I drink water. No alcohol. I eat berries when in season. No muesli or other cereals. I eat eggs with mushrooms and cheese for breakfast. No sweet rolls, sad face. I walk at least 4 kilometers per day and usually more. I have a low stress policy for my life. Stress increases blood glucose levels. Lack of proper sleep increases BG levels. Pay attention to your life and how you deal with events in your life. I have lost about 8 kilograms since I was diagnosed in March 2017. I aim to lose another 3 kilograms. I can eat pizza, rice and pasta in moderation now. I eat salads, meats, fish, chicken, whole wheat breads. I live in Italy now, so there are a lot of fresh choices here. I was told I would need to be on meds and that this was not reversible. I would not accept that. I proved my endocrinologist wrong. She wanted me on the usual ADA recommended diet for diabetics. It looked crazy to me to eat fruits and carbs all the time. I test my healing progress periodically and eat a pizza in the evening just to see what my BG will be in the morning. So far it is still normal. When I started this lifestyle change I tested my BG about 8 times a day. I wanted a complete picture to know exactly what everything in my life did to affect my BG levels. Once I had that picture I adjusted my lifestyle. Now I check every morning after I get up and before breakfast. Will I be able to eat sweets again? I will test that next year to see. I no longer trust what groups like the American Diabetes Association tell me. I will test these things for myself. There is no cure for diabetes. Neither type 1 juvenile onset or insulin requiring diabetes or type 2 adult onset diabetes ever goes away. In type 1 diabetes, patients sometimes experience what physicians have come to call a honeymoon period, shortly after the disease is diagnosed. During the honeymoon period, diabetes may appear to go away for a period of a few months to a year. The patient's insulin needs are minimal and some patients may actually find they can maintain normal or near normal blood glucose taking little or no insulin. It would be a mistake to assume that the diabetes has gone away, however. Basically, type 1 diabetes occurs when about 90% of the body's insulin-producing cells have been destroyed. At the time that type 1 diabetes is diagnosed, most patients still are producing some insulin. If obvious symptoms of type 1 diabetes emerge when the patient has an illness, virus or cold, for example, once the illness subsides the body's insulin needs may decrease. At this point, the number of insulin-producing cells remaining may be enough, for the moment, to meet the person's insulin needs again. But the process that has destroyed 90% of the insulin-producing cells will ultimately destroy the remaining insulin-producing cells. And as that destruction continues, the amount of injected insulin the patient needs will increase, and ultimately the patient will be totally dependent on insulin injections. Scientists now think that it is important for people with newly diagnosed diabetes to continue taking some insulin by injection even during the honeymoon period. Why? Because they have some scientific evidence to suggest that doing so will help preserve the few remaining insulin-producing cells for a while longer. Patients diagnosed with type 2 diabetes may discover that if they are overweight at diagnosis and then lose weight and begin regular physical activity, their blood glucose returns to normal. Does this mean diabetes has disappeared? No. The development of type 2 diabetes is a gradual process, too, in which the body becomes unable to produce enough insulin for its needs and/or the body's cells become resistant to insulin's effects. Gradually the patient goes from having impaired glucose tolerance, a decreased but still adequate ability to convert food into energy, to having diabetes. If the patient were to gain weight back or scale back on their physical activity program, high blood glucose would return. If they were to overeat at a meal, their blood glucose probably would continue to go higher than someone without diabetes. Also, the decreased insulin production and/or increased insulin resistance that led to the initial diabetes diagnosis will gradually intensify over the years and during periods of stress. In time, the patient who could maintain normal blood glucose with diet and exercise alone may discover that he or she needs to add oral diabetes medications, or perhaps even insulin injections, to keep blood glucose in a healthy range. The good news for a type 1 and type 2 patient is that if insulin, medication, weight loss, physical activity and changes in eating result in normal blood glucose, that means their diabetes is well controlled and their risk of developing diabetes complications is much lower. But it doesn't mean that their diabetes has gone away. Yes, diabetes is curable. You need to make sure you eat well, have fiber in your food, stay away from sugar. There are a lot of reasons your blood sugar level elevates. Inactivity results into our body not being able to use enough glucose as energy, making the cells more insensitive to insulin. Regular exercise, on the other hand, ensures that the body stays fit to fight against diseases and maintain health. A minimum of 20 minutes of exercise every day is recommended to keep the body active and healthy. Leisure activity like brisk walking, gardening, playing with a pet or children, household chores every day can also prove to be beneficial to maintain health. You need to make sure you eat healthy. An unhealthy body mass index or excessive fatty tissues in the body cause higher resistance of our cells to insulin, posing an increased threat to prediabetes.